welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 50. Fucking 50.
Oh, 50.
Damn.
We did it.
That's more than 49.
That is more than 49, less than 51.
Less impressive than 51, yes.
Is less impressive than 51. But it's a nice round number. I would argue that 50 mentally is more impressive than 51.
So what you're saying is we can only go downhill from here. This will be our last episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Until 100. When we hit 100, then it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Cool. Would you like to
This will be
introduce
our last
yourself?
episode until
Hi.
number 100.
Hi, I am Kurt.
End of line.
Nightson.
I know that you put it in the chat, so I would follow, but I'm not.
Gigett.
I am Handor.
And
I'm
tonight's
Oreztes.
spotlight topic is... God damn it.
All the
And
best ones end in S.
today's spotlight topic is going to be how to pitch games to your non-gamer friends. But before we get to that, Endo, do we have any announcements?
We always have announcements, Katie. You know this.
Thank you.
We have a Paper Scandal side quest coming up on April 27th. So that's going to be this Saturday coming at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be running Dialect, run by our guest GM, Yoshi. So who all's playing that besides me?
It's you and I and Yoshi. So it's actually GM-less. So it's not GM. There's just Yoshi is facilitating it for us. You and I,
Sure.
and then either Handor or Oreztes. I can't remember who signed up.
Please
But-
let it be Handor. I'm begging.
Definitely
I've never felt more strongly about something in my life than having Handor play something where you have to like make up words. On the spot.
make up words. It's not as hard as it sounds. Like it's
You know that's gonna go horribly, and the
How-
only
how
reason
many
you
hours
want me
was
to
slot-
be in that is because it's gonna be so cringe.
How many hours are blocked off for this game? It's very important besides for us to figure that out. Okay, anyway. Saturday, April 27th at 9 a.m.
Inside
We're going to
jokes.
be playing
now?
that.
Yes.
Our next Paper Scandal show is going to be on May the 14th at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
PM.
We are going to be starting our new actual play of Savage Worlds with Gigett will be GMing it. And it's going to be a supernatural investigation program. Which supernatural investigation program is the name of the campaign.
Yes.
So this will be
Sip.
our next long-term campaign we're going to be playing over the stream.
Yep.
Sip. Say it.
Sip.
Steven Seagal.
Sip and Suede.
Suede.
Suede and Sip. That's
And,
the rap music
so
video
like-
we're preparing.
Yeah, Sip and
It's called
Suede.
Sip and Suede.
Snoop Dogg featuring.
We have not forgotten about
Scandal.
Dungeon World. Our finale is coming. It's just impossible to schedule anything this time of the year.
Yes.
So we will give you a heads up when it is coming, and so you can partake.
It's
Absolutely.
because Pixel Scandal recently took up wedding photography, and so we're booked for the rest of the summer.
Which would be a good reason why every Saturday would be full. Your
Yeah.
weddings. Yeah.
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 That's it. That's what we got.
So let's move into what we're excited about. First up, I backed a Kickstarter this week, which has 10 more days on it. It closes on May 1st. It's the next Kickstarter from the Animal Adventures people that did the Dungeons and Doggos. They're doing Tales of Cats in Catacombs this time. And so, it comes with a bunch of adorable cats as different D&D classes, just like the Doggos were a bunch of D&D classes, and then an adventure. I'm excited to eventually get that and do like a cats versus dogs D&D rumble.
That would
I
be
will
interesting.
say,
That
A tale of time.
Yeah. Ignoring anything else about the system or the mechanics, the minis are incredible. They're very well made
They are very well made.
and very creative.
Hmm. And very
If
you're gonna-
detailed.
if you're gonna do a cats versus dogs RPG, I demand the ability to play the evil Persian cat.
So this is
that guy
basically
was-
Pugmere for cats. Is what I'm hearing. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
That guy was awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so Cats and Catacombs, it'll be in the show doc. My potato's slow, so I didn't see that Endo had posted it in chat, but so now we both did. So it's in chat, but go pick back the Kickstarter. I already got my Dungeons and Doggos minis, so I can verify that the minis are very, very good quality, and the detail on them is really awesome, and so the cats should come in just as awesome as the doggos did. So there you go.
So are the cats going to be doing the same classes as the dogs?
They're different classes. There are some crossover, but they definitely expanded to more classes with the cats.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's got to be a cat that's just really good at knocking shit over, right?
They all get that as a passive racial trait.
That's the berserker.
That's the berserker.
Yeah. Frenzied berserker.
I would like to rage.
The Necromancer mini is amazing.
That's going to be weird, though, because cats don't look different. Like dogs, there's a ton of different dogs, and they all look different. Cat looks like a cat.
That's
Right.
racist, first of all. Second,
Their face.
Isn't it more like catist?
yeah,
I think it'd be
Yeah.
specious.
specious. That's
But like
specious.
cat, yeah, I mean, cats look like cats. Like,
No,
They're
it's a
calico cats. There are
they look very different.
Well, the
But it's,
Great.
if you don't
coloring
paint
of
them,
the cats are
yeah,
different.
if you
but,
don't
like,
paint
the
them
body
different,
shape.
it's all the same.
long hair, short
I'm looking
hair,
at the
no
mini.
hair.
They all look different.
Take a look at the minis. You'll
all
really
look-
see
they
that
all
they're
look
able
like
to make them look all different. And
Yeah.
I do agree with you, Oreztes. Dogs are the better animal,
Yeah.
just in general.
Dogs are-
And sentence. Moving on to the next topic.
We just
Moving right
lost we lost half of our old Catwoman viewers.
Well, you know what? If they think cats are better, then I don't want them.
So cool. So moving right along.
I hope no one listens to this podcast.
Endo.
Mortal Kombat 11. We've got 2 more days,
Yeah, it's only like
so it's coming
2
out on
days.
Tuesday.
Gonna
yeah,
be preloading that bitch tonight.
Crazy
Or wait,
excited.
that
My
didn't sound
preload is done on Steam. Thankfully, they were smart enough to allow a preload for Steam. They didn't for MK10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been practicing a lot. Handor and I kind of taking a break for a few days, but yeah, we're ready. I think we're ready.
Nice.
Shaping up to be incredible from what I've
Yeah.
seen.
That's awesome.
I get to
that's
spend the next 2 days
amazing.
downloading it.
Yeah, get going.
Yeah,
It's
I
pretty
am.
big.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm excited about is the next Pantheon stream. We've kind of been waiting for a while on the next Pantheon stream. And we found out last week that Code Carnage was going to be doing another stream on April 25th. And then we found out that there was going to be no content from Project Fairthale, which is like the next part of the alpha, which is all the new content they're putting in and the new content and everything.
Mm.
And fans were not happy. So we just got word on Thursday that they are listening to the community, and on the stream they're going to be also unleashing a bunch of new art concepts and animation for Project Fairthale, so people can kind of see how that's going. So everyone's thankful and excited, and that stream is going to be 10 a.m. PDT on April 25th on Carnage's stream. So if you're interested in Pantheon stuffs like I am, you'll be able to check that out.
Now, are they actually in alpha, full alpha now, or?
No, they are still in pre-alpha.
Okay.
Yeah, we still don't even have an alpha date, which I'd be lying to say that people aren't getting a little touchy, testy about it, because we were supposed to be in alpha 4th quarter last year, and here we are now in April, starting into May. So we're really hoping to get some kind of timeline from them pretty soon. People are starting to push them a little hard for it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Okay.
Something I'm excited about is, or I'd like to put on everybody's radar, is this awesome zine called Dames, a woman knights art zine. So it's just an art zine. It's like a little booklet full of art, and it's got all these gorgeous pictures of lady knights. So like realistic armor. They got like 41 different artists to collaborate on it, and the art just looks super cool. So definitely check that out if you're into fantasy art, and you're tired of seeing like weird or not getting like cool lady knight art. So definitely go check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Awesome. So let's move into what we've played recently. I heard you guys talking about Vermintide last night.
Yeah, we got that installed and ended up playing most of yesterday afternoon and evening. Was super, super fun to get started, and then it kind of fell off for me.
Why so?
Yeah.
Well, first off, it's one of those tempering your expectations kind of things, but the way the game was able to be played for the first 5 hours we were playing stopped being viable. And so I basically picked a class where I was not able to do the thing that made it fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made a mistake by rushing for the tank build, and then playing that for a few hours, kind of got used to how that played, and then was like, oh, I'm going to switch it up and play a different class, and just falling over after like 2 seconds, and just dying immediately just takes a lot of the fun out of a game.
Yeah, I'm to blame for that. You leveled up a character to where we went to the higher difficulty, and then the higher difficulty is the only way that Nightson and I were getting loot, so we continued to try and push on that difficulty, and then he reset himself back to 1. So he wasn't prepared for that. The new character wasn't prepared for that difficulty jump. So we should have went back to the earlier stuff for the new character.
Okay. Well, was there any like parts of it that you did enjoy?
Yeah, it's think of Left 4 Dead, except it's class based and you have abilities and spells and whatnot. My biggest problem with how they did that, like, it's super cool and awesome, and that is just, it's the same reason Destiny bugs me. You have abilities, but you're only allowed to use them once every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that being frustrating.
Yes. But ultimately, if you don't go hardcore into it, like for the playing through the game, playing it as if it was Left 4 Dead or that, and just playing through, I actually really enjoyed the playing through the game once. I don't think I would ever enjoy getting down into the treadmill, getting better gear, playing harder difficulties, unlocking more stuff. But the single playthrough, it was pretty solid.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
Is it worth the whatever $20-$30 you had to throw at it?
$10 dues.
$10.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so it was super cheap. Like, the game came out 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You didn't already own a copy of that?
No, I actually own 2.
Who's surprised?
That
Just
Humble
wanted to
Bundle
make
subscription
sure that-
paying off.
Yeah.
It just felt like an older game, but it was fun for the horde aspect, and it was co-op and team based and whatnot, and you kind of felt you had your roles early on when it was lower difficulty, and then the higher difficulty was everyone's got to watch out for their own ass or they're just going to die.
Okay. Cool.
All right. I played D&D again recently. Yesterday morning, I got to play some D&D with in Chris Gray's. We changed the name of the game. It's no longer Ain't Afraid of Nomad Mage. It's something else. So now we're in Undermountain, is what it's called now.
Now we're in Underbound title.
Yeah. Now we're in Undermountain.
No, Undermountain, okay.
But yeah, last game was pretty much just like us sort of figuring out who we are and getting hiring a bunch of hirelings and heading into Undermountain. So this time we actually sort of started digging through the dungeon of it. And I know we're going through it a little bit faster pace, I think, than most groups are. And our focus is a little bit less on the dungeon crawl part of it and more on how are these characters dealing with being in this dungeon. And it's been really fun. No spoilers for Dungeon the Mad Mage, but there was one room that was some monsters, and then we find out that they're not quite what they seem, and we end up just sort of chatting with them and getting mad at them and insulting them instead of running in and fighting them.
Verbal combat with them.
Yeah, well, we just we started arguing. We were just you're bad and you should feel bad and you should just go home, and trying to get him to leave the dungeon.
Okay. Shaming the monster.
Yeah, and we're just yelling at them because they're some of them were just doing a bad job at being monsters, and one of them kind of offended my character, and so we were just berating them. And then
you're not a monster. How do you know they're doing it wrong?
Yeah.
Stay in your lane, Kurt.
But we actually did see some combat towards the end of the game, so that was kind of cool to get to try out the Artificer. Damn, is that turret effective? It's I'm playing like way tanky, and so the Artificer has this turret it can summon, and it can either be like a flamethrower or like a ballista, or it can be a temp HP bot that just pumps out temporary hit points in a like little burst.
Sounds exactly like the knight in Dungeon Defenders.
Sure, I don't know.
Target dummy, the ballista, and what else? There's one other thing they can summon. It's just like it.
But yeah, this temp HP bot turned out to be really effective. I don't think I took 2 points of damage the whole fight with a bunch of big like mean old monsters. Nobody else took any damage because every turn on a bonus action I could just pump out another 1d8 plus 4 temporary hit points to everybody.
Nice.
So nobody was taking any damage. It might be a little too strong, but then again, it costs a scale. Yeah, it doesn't scale, so it's good right now. You get it at level 3, I think. So we're level 5. We just hit level 6, so it will never get more than 12 HP on a max, which is not a huge deal at like level 8 or 9. So we'll see how it goes. It's a nice buffer though, and it's a bonus action for 10 minutes. You get to pump out this little burst of temps, which is fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Handor, what did you play recently?
I've been playing a little bit of Satisfactory, which is super satisfying. It's
Nice.
It's Minecraft meets what's the 2D
Minecraft.
No,
Stardew Valley.
Not Stardew Valley. It's
Factorio.
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 It's a 3D Factorio that's a little Minecrafty. I don't know. It's probably more Factorio than anything, and it's really pleasant to look at and watch and see the machines. It's seriously super like the machines. They just did a really good job with the detail, especially some of the miners. If you're not paying attention, you'll notice how. If you've ever seen them drill a well and they bring the pipe in to replace so that it can keep going, and the machine's automatically grabbing pipes and putting it in, screwing it, and then it'll keep. It's just little details that are really cool. It's a fun game.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Yeah.
Also sounds kind of like low impact, where it's not like a stressful game. So it's good when you're like, I want to play a game, but I want to kind of chill and not have like a high probability of getting stressed by the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You can definitely tell which one of us lives in the Midwest if you think drilling a hole for a well is interesting.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, let's move into our spotlight topic, which is how to pitch games to your non-gamer friends. So where do you guys feel like is a good place to start when you're trying to get these people who've never played RPGs before to play them?
Blackmail.
Blackmail's a great way to get anyone to do anything, I think. So
That's what happened to me.
Or
start
slightly
by
lower
finding-
impact, you can go with bribery.
Yeah.
Or you could make a good investment and find new friends.
There's always that. But let's say you want to keep your current friends. How would you go about getting them into the hobby?
Well, I think a good starting place is to find out like what their knowledge of gaming is, so you know where to start. So like you've got a friend, you want to convince them to come play D&D with you or whatever. Finding out where they are on their RPG journey is a good idea. Like, do they know nothing? Like, have they never seen Stranger Things and have never heard the word D&D before? Or like, do they play video games all the time and that's something you can use? Do they play board games? Like, have they done any acting? Like, all of these are kind of places you can start from to start to explain what the hobby is. Mm-hmm. And I, kind of coaxing that information out would be a good starting place, because it gives you like a starting point to try to help explain what things are.
It's like this, but
yeah, it's like this, but that, or
Yeah.
So, as an example, if your friend has zero knowledge of RPGs, then you're probably gonna want to move into like what kind of movies they like, or what kind of books they like to read, and how those relate to the type of game that you either want to run, or what game you could run that would fit with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they've got, go ahead.
I was going to say one really nice method is the concept of have you seen a movie, have you seen or read a book, watched a show, and you're like, I would never do that. This is your opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Like
you get to drive.
Yeah, I mean, telling them, have you ever wanted to play your favorite character, but you get to write the script? Like that's a good starting point for a lot of like how to draw people into gaming.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a little bit of info, like a lot of people now have played video games, right? So if they're like they've played MMOs or they've played Skyrim, those are kind of a good starting point. Because they give you a lot of the same terminology, right? Like you can, they understand what quests are, they understand what a character is, they understand what a lot of the tropes are, probably if it's a fantasy to fantasy game, or like if you're gonna play a sci-fi game, if they've played Mass Effect, like you've got a lot of common language that you can use. So that's a really good place to start. Is this game does this thing that you liked, but have you ever were you ever playing a video game and you get to a point where the dialogue options just don't hit what you think your character should say? Well, that's not a problem because you're writing the game as you go, and that someone else is there to respond to the game as you go. So like showing them the openness compared to video games is usually a good way to sort of bring someone over if they're familiar with video games first.
I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, I don't remember, but Handor, how did we like pitch RPG gaming to you? We were just like, hey, you're gonna do this thing? Or I don't remember what that was like for you.
Well, a lot of it was a lot of like building me up and telling me that you'll be amazing at it and blah blah blah, all these little lies. And,
I don't think that's something we would have said.
Convincing me that it would be totally fine. We'll do all the legwork, stuff like that. Just
so making you feel supported.
Yeah, for sure. Basically,
Okay.
like sold me, like trying to sell me a car that is a missing an engine. It doesn't have wheels.
Right. I mean,
And then you hop in, you're like, let's go, and you realize,
And everybody's like, well, start pedaling, man. What are you doing?
yeah, get going.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I remember when Kurt got me into role-playing games, I was definitely resistant to wanting to do it, because it was like outside of my comfort zone, and I hadn't played many video games, so I didn't have a lot of like, touchstones for what it was going to be like. And so I think it was similar for me, where there was a lot of that kind of bolstering, like, no, you'll be fine. I'll be here to help you. Like, it's going to be okay. And I think that a lot of getting non-gamers into RPGs, it's making them feel very safe and like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
you can trust the people that are with you. Like, that's an important part of that.
And to be fair, when you have a GM like Kurt, who's going to be your entry into an RPG, it's probably the smoothest transmission, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm like super hungover today, so transition, there you go.
Oh,
I just
that's
don't
what's
even...
going on.
Yeah.
So your recommendation is, if you want to get your non-gamer friends into gaming, give the show a call and have Kurt run a game for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's what's happened, apparently.
And you can do that. You can do that by
emailing Kurt
going
at
to our
Pixel Scandal.
no. Go. You can do don't we have a Patreon thing where you can do like a little
Yeah. We do
1
have a
hour
Patreon
thing with Kurt?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think Oreztes may have the most experience with having to do this over and over again.
I know what you're talking about.
So I'm wondering, how do you pitch that to people? Like, hey, we're gonna go do this thing,
Yeah, what's your
and I
pitch?
want you to do this. How do you get
I
people to
usually
do that?
just say, I'm going to do a thing. You're welcome to join. And I'm so awesome that they just follow me.
Oh, okay, that's how that works for you.
So you lie to
That's
them.
That was not what I was expecting. I was imagining like death threats and
Oh no, that
like,
would be so
bribery.
much
No,
more
I
aggressive.
just say, I'm going over to my friends to play a game. You want to come? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's how it's
Okay.
always worked.
So luck is your.
So no information, so they don't know what they're getting into and can't say no because they're already sitting around a table of all your friends.
Right? They're like, I've heard of games.
Yeah.
You just
I
don't
might
explain
tell
why.
them.
games.
Yeah,
and the
like,
social constructs keeps them from walking out.
Right.
yeah. It's like, well, I'm polite, so I can't just leave. Also, I rode with him, so I don't have a way home.
Trapped. Oh, okay.
Okay.
You trap them. There
So
you go.
withhold information and trap them. Got it.
Yeah.
So as like
Yeah.
a general question, how do you guys, those of us that have brought new people in, how do you explain to someone what an RPG is and prepare them for what they're getting themselves into?
I tend to go with it's storytelling with dice. We're as a group we're gonna tell a story together, and we're gonna use dice or games like a game mechanic to help us when we're not sure if something should happen or not. Like if we don't agree. Like if you think about cops and robbers, if I say oh, I shoot you, you're dead. Well, that's where the game comes in, and it handles those sorts of stuff so that it feels fair for everyone. But mostly we're just telling a story with our friends.
I think it's important to use the pitch depending on which direction they're coming from. That's a really good pitch if they have an acting background or much less gaming background.
That's
but if they
from like nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
if they have a board gaming or war gaming or anything like that, pitching them as it's that, but you take control of the characters and you make the minute-to-minute decisions of an individual person. Do you not want to go to war today? Great, let's go to a bar and get drunk.
Right. Yeah.
And then and then you get to deal with the fallout or sneaking away or
Right. Well, I know, Endo, that you kind of had a 5th ed game start up. I don't know if that was like a year ago or whatever. How did you kind of pitch that game to the group that you started that with? Because I know they were all like novice players, had never played before. How did you kind of get them in?
Oh, I was actually invited to that game.
Oh, okay.
So it was pitched to me.
Oh. Well, there
Yeah,
you
it
go.
was run by some friends on a gaming group that I'm a part of that were looking to get into it, and we had a guy that was had GM'd a lot, and there were a bunch of people interested that really hadn't gotten into it before, so they were complete novices.
I think that's a really important point, is usually having someone who is like very knowledgeable in whatever game you're playing so that they can answer all of the questions and make the new people feel like safe. Going back to that, feeling safe, right? Like if I have a question, these people are going to be able to answer it, and I'm not going to just be out in the weeds and have to come up with everything on my own. I think that's a really important part to getting people into it, but also staying, right? Because it's one thing to get them to play a game, but keeping them there is something completely different.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it helps that the gate to entry is so much easier now than it was a few years ago. Like when I originally played AD&D, and I hadn't played a lot of 3.5 until I came here and met these guys at the little library group that we used to play at. And the gate of entry for 3.5 was crazy high.
Yeah.
It was not something I could imagine a lot of people kind of sitting down and being like, oh, I'm going to sit down and play this, and then got a bunch of new nerds together at a table, and like there's at least 2 or 3 rule Nazis that have the book open the whole time. Like, nope, that's not correct. And you go through this like 40-minute tirade of like, no, that's not how grappling works. This is the way you have to
nobody knows how grappling works.
add this and divide by this, and they start
Nobody
pulling
knows.
out a
I know
graphic
exactly how
calculator.
grappling works.
And then, when someone says, oh, you're going to build a character, go to that table over there, and it's just like a 6-month college course with college credit.
Right.
So, like, back then, it was a lot. The gate to entry was so difficult. I think fortunately now trying to get people into the culture or into the community is just so much easier. I think games like Savage Worlds definitely help for that, where it's kind of a rules light system. I don't know if I'd say rules light system, but it's definitely a lot easier to figure out.
If you started with 3.5, literally everything is rules light system.
Yeah. When we picked up Savage Worlds, it was rules light to us. Like there are, we've discovered more rules light systems now, but yeah.
But I mean, if you look at games like the, as we have dubbed on Pixel Scandal, story game bullshit games, I think favorite. Story game bullshit games are the way to gate people into games. You don't need to know anything. You can sit down within 10 minutes. You can just tell them this is how it works. This is how you're going to play. And you can walk someone through a 4-hour campaign, a game, one shot with no gate to entry at all. I think once someone goes through those types of games, and if they enjoy that, then start merging them into playing more rules.
Well, you can mitigate getting someone into a more traditional game by lowering those barriers yourself. Don't hand them a player's handbook and say, make your fighter.
Right. I mean, Nightson
use a pre-made.
Yeah, well, Nightson wanted us to play Shadowrun, and he absolutely did not make us figure out how to make all our characters the first time we played, or even learn, like, most of the mathematics that goes into figuring out if you succeeded or not, because he wanted us to play Shadowrun, and he's like, no, you'll like it. Like, just...
Well, the first game was, I'm going to get these fools hooked on rolling 20d6.
Yeah, that may have been
it's a bit of a drug.
Yeah. He's just feeding into Kurt's huge dice collection. He's like, you need to buy more dice, Kurt. That's why you got to play Shadowrun.
But asking him.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just going to tack on, I agree with the story game bullshit being really good for people who either have no reference or are more interested in the story side of gaming, the storytelling side. If that's what they key on when you're sort of explaining what the game is, then that's the way to go. If they start asking you about how the game works and seem really interested in that side of it, or they came from a wargaming background, I would argue that maybe staying closer to their comfort zone with something that's maybe, like D&D or Pathfinder, something that's closer to their comfort zone that brings, like, slowly seeps the role-playing in. So wherever they're starting from, you want to get as close to that as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting with people who like board games, then you're going to want to have games where there are minis on the table and you're moving things around and the role-playing is kind of tacked onto the board game side of it, and then ease them into the role-playing, or, vice versa, depending on where they're coming from.
Yeah, but using leading questions and that kind of stuff with helping them build their first character, or pre-gens with a picture of the character on it, they go, "Ooh, this guy's neat. Tell me about him." Is a good method to drum up some interest.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that was.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say something that was really helpful for me as well was being around people who were really used to and comfortable with role playing, so that I was able to gauge exactly how to respond or get an idea of how myself I could start role playing, and what that feeling is like being in that environment, so that trying to role play for your first time it's such an unfamiliar feeling. So having other people around you that are capable of doing it really eases that process.
Right.
So you can just see what it looks like,
Oreztes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, when I first started, I started with 3.5. And for me, when I started, the first time I went, I was basically like tricked into going by somebody who had played tabletop games before. So that was like her kind of wanting to try it, and see if it was still the same. For me, it was more about the people that I met there and that I was playing with, because the game, I couldn't really care. I didn't really care about it, like coming from an outsider, somebody who had no experience with it. I didn't really care so much about the game. But when we got there and we met the people, and it was like, oh yeah, these guys are kind of cool. That's what made me want to go back the second time and then the third time. And then I was like, okay, well, these guys are cool. I like them. Let me start paying attention to this game thing.
So the environment was really important for you, like the people and them being welcoming. If you've got the type of people that are closed off or like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, then that's going to obviously put that new person off and not make them want to come back.
Yeah, and I definitely lucked out by being placed at the good table because for those of us who went and all met at the library at those events, there were definitely good tables and not so good tables with players who like to play together and who got paired up together and stuff. And had I been placed at one of the bad tables, I don't think I would have gone back a second time.
I think a big aspect of, and this kind of ties into all your recent points, is if you are a inclusionist and you allow everyone to come and play all your games and everything, you may want to consider curating the first couple of games of who you're bringing, because there are going to be people who are even amongst people who get along, there are going to be people who are not as welcoming or willing to put up with a novice, or feeds into the negative stereotypes of the D&D nerd.
Well, that was going to be my next question is how, in media, there is stereotypes of what the D&D nerds look like, right? Where they're sitting around a table with cloaks on and wizard hats and they're, fireball or whatever. And so how do you break that stereotype? How do you help someone you're trying to like, hey, come play this role-playing game thing with me? Like, how do you break that image for them and help them actually want to come do this thing with you?
Bring them to a game, because it's not like that.
I think if you have somebody who's sitting at the table wearing the cloak and the wizard hat, they're probably the DM, and that's a good DM. Put the new player at that table.
I think we're actually in a time when it's easier than ever to break that stereotype, because there are live streamed games with famous people who do not look like that stereotype running and playing these games. Like, you can point to an actual play with Joe Manganiello or Deborah Ann Wall or Matthew Lillard. Hell, if they're younger, Dylan Sprouse. Like, you can you can point to all these actors from things that they have probably seen and say, no, that's not what a D&D player looks like. That may be what some D&D players look like, and that's fine, or act like, or are. But not everyone is like that, and it doesn't mean that the table that you're at has to be like that. And so, I think it's really easy to point to, like, cultural icons that have come out as being for D&D. So.
But in the same note, I would avoid a convention or a local game shop as their first experience because of the higher propensity for the stereotypical player.
Well, it's... Oh, go ahead.
Unless, of course, you vetted it in advance.
Right. I have definitely been at Adventures League tables that if that game was my first game, I would never have come back.
Right. If you're going to try and get someone into the hobby, like Nightson said, cultivating that group of people that you're playing with is going to be really important, because you're wanting this person to come back. That's the whole goal, not a one-off, like, one and done. You're hoping that they're going to join your gaming group as an ongoing thing, and if their first experience is bad, then they're not going to come back. So it's important to kind of cultivate that.
Something else that I think you might want to be aware of is if someone is worried or is concerned about the stereotype of what a D&D player is, that's probably a self-conscious thing that they're like, I don't want to be seen as that. And so reassuring them that it's not, it's a safe place, right? Like, they're not going to be judged for doing this thing, is because that's what they care about, right? They don't care that you want to wear a cloak. They care that people will think they're weird if they wear a cloak.
Right. And
so, like, convincing them that they're going to be okay, the people that they're about to meet to play this game with are not going to judge them for either their lack of knowledge or their, the thing they're about to do. Like, make them feel safe, right? Basically is.
I find that, like, talking to people about what it is, what RPGs are, and what the game is going to be like. This is the theme. This is the type of people that are going to be there. Providing someone with a lot of information about what is going to happen lowers a lot of the like kind of anxiety or the fear that you're going to either feel stupid or look stupid or say something wrong, or like, you know, that everybody's role playing and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Like, but the more information you provide ahead of time lowers a lot of that fear. So then they're more willing to actually show up to the game instead of cancel at the last minute. Be like, no, I'm not coming. Because it's like, no, it's going to be you and these 3 other people. You've met them before. Remember at that party we were all at? Like, it's easier to get them to come to an event when you provide more information than less information.
Also, alcohol helps.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Especially for minors. That just gets them just right into the game.
Well, yeah, they're down in the caves.
They've been working in the coal mines all day.
Yeah.
Obviously, what you meant.
That's why dwarves are stereotypically drunks and stereotypically minors.
There you go.
I think another critical thing is don't make them the group leader. Give them a role or aspect of the game that is small but critical at the same time. Give them the opportunity to play as little as they want and kind of just watch and inject themselves as necessary. But at the same time, give them something that a couple times during the game they will need to participate.
Yeah.
Make them the rogue and they got a lockpick or disarm a trap.
Yeah.
Make them the ranger because they're completely worthless at all times.
It doesn't matter if you're
Depends on the
effective.
system.
No, I think Kurt has a really good way of getting people to help them figure out what they want to play, like questions to ask, where it's like, do you want to stab things or do you want to throw magic spells? Do you like talking to people or do you like, acting like you're dumb? Like, I don't know. It's just like a list of questions that you just pull out of your head and it helps make people like narrow down the type of character they like to play. And I think that really helps for new players when they don't know what a rogue and a wizard and a monk and they don't know what all the classes mean, but you just ask these broad questions and keep narrowing down until you're like, oh, you would feel comfortable in this kind of position.
Well, and I think something that's really important there is ask more questions than statements. Like when you're trying to explain what gaming is to someone, give them enough that they have more questions. Because if you just bombard them with information, they're probably going to get overwhelmed and feel like this isn't for me. And so if you just give them a little bit of info and then give them enough to generate more questions and then just answer the questions that they have with things that will generate more questions, instead of like saying, oh, well, let me tell you about Dritz, right? Like nobody cares about that.
Even people who know about Dritz don't care. So never say that to anybody.
Yeah. And try not to hit them with too many inside jokes or be careful about the language that you use. Because some things you're going to say, like they're not going to feel comfortable asking what you meant, right?
We found that with Handor, where we would say things and then he would be like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Because to us, it's shorthand for RPG stuff that we've been saying to each other for 10 years, inside jokes and whatever. And now we've got a new player with us that we want to feel comfortable and part of the group, but we're still using the inside jokes and the shorthand comments and all this stuff. And he's like, I'm lost. It's like, don't do that to your new people. Like, even we were bad at it and we're try hard not to now, but don't use all that inside baseball talk when you're trying to get this person to join.
And talk to the rest of the group. Make sure that everyone knows, like, if someone seems like they're lost, ask them if they need help. Don't just start helping them. Like, and make sure that everyone kind of is on the same bar. Say, do you need some suggestions right now, or do you need help with this thing, or are you looking for something that you can't find? Instead of saying, oh, your AC is this, and point at their sheet, right? Or because I've seen that happen. Hell, I've done it. Like, I can't, like, sometimes it feels like you can't stop yourself from just, doing things, because especially if a game is like heavy combat, like you get into this mode where you want everybody to move fast, but if your goal is to introduce someone new, you want to be.
That brings up a good point, though. Good character sheets.
Yeah.
getting a way to display the pertinent details and nothing else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say going back to like your first game being really good, if you're inviting someone into a game, maybe don't invite them to come as like a guest star in a long running campaign where they're not going to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And like there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's not going to get explained to them because everyone else at the table is like, nope, we just got to keep going with the goal of whatever's going. Like maybe do a one shot or start a new campaign, or, you know, don't just drop them into the middle of something where they're going to feel like they're lost and they don't know how to play and everyone around them has more information than they do. It's just going to add to that feeling of drowning.
Yeah, if not a one shot, I would keep it to a short game because you don't want them to be locked into decisions that they made not knowing anything.
Right.
And like speaking of game length, be super clear about the time commitment that they're signing up for. Like if someone comes over, like if you say, oh, you should come over and play a game with us, like if they've only played board games, they may think this is an hour-long visit. Like definitely tell them this is going to be 4 hours, but like, or even, you know, this first game is going to be 2 hours, and keep it to that 2 hours or like check in with everybody at that 2 hours, right?
And I'll admit that is a mistake that I made. We were running a game for some new people who had never played before, and other people in our gaming group had said like, hey, would you run a game for this group of people because they want to try it out? And I was like, sure. I didn't realize they hadn't explained to the new people how long one session of an RPG usually is. And so at like an hour and a half, they were like, hey, so I'm going to have to go in like a half hour. And I had thought, oh, 4 hour game. That's a normal RPG game. And so it ended up, you know, what would normally be one session ended up being like 4 games. And they were talking about this story arc, which for a normal game that we would have run would have been one game. But for them, it felt like an arc because we were playing an hour and a half at a time. And so definitely having that talk about what kind of commitment are we doing here and how long are the games going to be and how many games and how often and how many of these games are we going to do before we call it, and you know, whatever. Like those are important conversations to have with people, because exactly, if they've never played an RPG, they've only played board games, that's, you know, 2 hours at most. You hang out and you go home. RPGs tend to be a little longer, so you know, it's an important conversation to have.
Yeah.
But those are all player and game expectations that we've covered in another show.
That is true.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and speaking of what Nightson had mentioned about good character sheets, I went ahead and linked in the Twitch chat the very best D&D character sheet you will ever see, and the only one you will ever need,
It's
regardless
so good.
of your system.
It's so good.
I will be using that from now on.
I love the little bunny under
all of
deck.
my D&D.
Is this the character sheet that we're going to use when we play
Dungeons and
TBZ?
Doggies.
TVs?
You
No,
gonna make
because it
cutesy
won't.
character sheets?
It won't work for TVs. Can I make?
Like,
I'll look at
I
it.
gotta...
Let me look.
This is
at
very
let me
cute.
Look into it.
You know what? I could probably pull off. I could probably, you know, get some of the art here and change the numbers and words to match TBZ. So we'll see. We'll work on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Yeah, definitely.
We'll make a sparkly TBZ character sheet.
Yeah.
And then, of course, something we covered at the top. If all else fails, just tell them they're your friend and they should come over on Tuesday, and then surprise them. They may never come back, which usually happens when you do that to them. But it is a way to get them to play the game.
Just lean on them until they give in.
Yep.
I do think a critical thing to understand, though, is it isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
And understand that regardless, this may not be something for them, and you might just have to give up.
Yeah. And don't, like, I mean, when you bring someone new in, don't feel bad that they didn't want to continue playing the game. It doesn't speak to you, the quality of the game usually, or you as a person. It speaks to the fact that this may just not be their cup of tea, right? So don't be offended if you try to bring someone in, they try it, and it's not for them.
Yeah. My sister is not a nerdy gamer at all, and we got her to play one RPG one time, and she had a great time, and then hugged me and said, "Thanks, I'm never doing that again." And that's okay. That's okay. And she seemed like she was having a great time during the game. She was role playing. She was laughing. It looked like she was having a great time. And when it all was said and done, she was like, "That this isn't my thing," and that's okay. That's all right. Well, cool. Does anybody have any final thoughts on the topic?
I think we covered everything I wanted to hit.
All right, cool. Well, Kurt, do you want to hit people where they can find us on the internet?
Yeah, right in the gut. So yeah, people can find us. People can find us by going to pixelscandal.com, where they can find back episodes of this show, all of our other shows, like our actual plays, and the video game streaming that we've done. They can find links to our social media if they want to follow us on social media, like Twitter, where we're at Pixel Scandal, or Facebook, where we're at Pixel Scandal Show, or Instagram at Pixel Scandal. They can find links to our audio feed if they want this as an audio podcast. In iTunes or Spotify or any podcatcher of their choice. And they can find a contact form if they want to get in touch with us, which I apologize was backed up. It was stuck and was not sending emails. So fortunately, we didn't get any that wanted to be read on the show. But we are receiving emails again. So if you wanna send stuff in, we can get it there by going to pixelscandal.com/contact or by emailing pixelscandal@gmail.com. And if you want to support this show because you just love us and you want us to keep doing what we're doing, or you want to get some cool backer patron rewards, you can go to patreon.com/pixelscandal, or you can head over to twitch.tv/pixelscandal and sub there.
Awesome. Well, we will see you Saturday morning, April 27th for Dialect.
Yay!
At 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Farewell.
Bye.